Good evening. Welcome to Light Code Portal. I'm Tanya Griffin, the Dean of Education for Light Language University, and I'm here with Anna Noyes, and we're going to be speaking about shamanic journey. Hi, Anna. How are you tonight?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And you're doing well yourself?
Oh, yes. It's a beautiful October day.
So true. And we're having a little bit of Mercury retrograde. So that's
Yeah.
always fun to play with. So we'll see how it goes tonight.
Yes. So, um, October is my very, very favorite time of the year. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. I love the end of the month, all the candy and costumes. So I'm definitely into all of the fun stuff, the festivities and everything that's happening. So thank you.
Right. And just the cooler weather is nice.
It is. So we're tonight's our subject is on shamanic journeying, I think. Is that
Yes.
okay? Good, good. So what are the questions we have tonight?
Well, I am actually waiting for the first question to pop up. So, why don't we just talk a little bit about what the definition of shamanic journeying is?
Ah, it's kind of different for many people. Normally, it is a drum beat that is kind of the heartbeat of the earth, or it's rattles, or it's some way of kind of relaxing, going into the theta. So we have the beta, alpha, and then theta, which is just before you go into delta brainwave, which is sleep. And so when you go into that sweet spot, and we call it in Light Language University, actually, we call that the twilighting, where you have one foot in the physical realm and one foot in the spiritual realm. And is when we do that, then we can journey into these other dimensions and open those doors and bring that information back. And often we work with shamanic animals. So a lot of people do gravitate toward the animals more than they gravitate to the guides. And they can go into these amazing, there's the um, lower world and the middle world and the upper world. And they can meet the different beings that are on the higher, like the angels and the galactic beings on the upper world, or they can move into the middle world, which is kind of almost like a carbon copy of the earth and explore and do things, or go into the underworld, which is not like what people, I think some people might think that's, um, there's heaven and hell, but it's not that. It can be gardens and working with animals and just a beautiful place to go into and have those experiences. So when you do, you can also do healings in these beautiful realms. You can work on the other dimensions. You can bring back information, uh, just a multitude of information and practice to work with.
Very interesting. So, how would you start on your shamanic journey?
Well, I actually, it's how would you start? So actually, I think it's best to have a teacher, and it's really good to have something like a drum beat, or like we said, some percussion to
Hmm.
help you go into that theta wave and bring and go into those different levels of altered states, what we call it. I think yes, and then also in light language, we do a little bit of it. We actually have a workshop that we do, and we actually visit six different altered. We go into altered state, and then we visit six different realms, and kind of explore and work with our shamanic animals and ask questions and bring retrieve and bring things back. So there's energy things that we can bring back to help for healing, or we can learn. You can do a class over there. So it's kind of nice to have that guidance with a teacher when you're first learning.
Right. So, by doing shamanic journeying, how would that help in my everyday life?
Wonderful. Well, like we said, you can retrieve information. You can work on your own healing. You can learn about your how to travel and go into those other dimensions and bring that information back to help you step into your power. So it's a lot about learning how to navigate. So we dream every night. And sometimes when we're dreaming, we won't always remember our dreams. So shamanic journeying will help you more with that to be more vivid in those dreams.
So originally, traditionally, what was shamanic journeying used for?
Healing, or and we also have it's called soul retrieval. People who have had traumatic states or something that has happened to them, they splinter off. So if you've ever had an experience where something happened to you and you're not in your body, we're outside of our body, and sometimes those pieces don't feel like it's safe to come back in the body, so parts of the soul will come back, but a piece will splinter off and go into another dimension. People who go into coma, they may be trapped on the other side in another dimension. They may decide that it's just unsafe to come back. And people who are passing, sometimes they get stuck in the body and they're trying to help to leave, and they need that, to help them get through. There's something called psychopump, where a shaman can go in and the soul is trapped on the other side and help them kind of move through those different dimensions to get where they need to go. There's different, I mean, it really is just different aspects of it.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, we have a question here. What are the six realms?
The six realms. I know of the three realms, and then there's a multitude after that. But the question that I just talked
Okay.
to.
Yeah, they were talking about the
I'm
track.
agree. No, I
Our
understand. Okay, yes. I'm like, well, there's four levels, four world, four different worlds. Okay. Yes, sorry. Senior moment. Yes, we have one that is the regular. We go in the upper, middle, and lower world. We go into the cave, we go into the crystal caves, we go into the cave of souls. And each one of these realms kind of give you different aspects of what to look for. So let's say that a soul that is splintered off, sometimes they'll go into the cave of souls, which is really dark. And then there's the crystal. They may go into the crystal worlds to look and find pieces and to explore. So yeah, that's kind of, those are the six. Yes.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
All right. So how can I believe that I'm not really, or that I'm really going somewhere and it's not just my imagination, that I'm not just making it up?
Yes, and everyone kind of goes through that. What happens is when you start to see the mirror, and we talk about the cat who scratches on the mirror, but the reality is that both. So it's kind of, the universe is kind of dyslexic. So when you start to have those experiences on the other side and they start to reflect back on your physical life that you're having now, then you start to realize it starts rippling back and things start to shift because of your work over there. Then you start to validate yourself. But oftentimes, I think students who are just learning about this, it's really good for them to be in a class where they're talking and they're sharing their experiences, and they have a teacher that's also helping to validate, but they're also validating each other, which is why we created the developing groups for the Light Language University to give students that opportunity to share.
Correct.
Mhm.
So, how often would somebody journey to improve their life?
And that's going to depend on each person. Each person's going to be different. So we talk about the human fingerprint and how we're all coming from different aspects and different parts of the universe, and dimensions go on forever. So it just depends, on the person. They may need to do it once a week. They may need to do it several times a day. It's up to them. Um, but here's the other thing. We have to remember that we're also physical beings. So as much an excitement that we get on those mystical experiences when we're in those other dimensional realms, or our animals or our spirit guides or the beings that come help us on the other sides and the other worlds, we still live in a physical body. So we need to remember that it's a good balance between the two, no matter what we do.
So, would a person need to be vibrating a higher frequency to be able to do this, or can anybody do this?
Anybody can do this, and I guess that's kind of a two-part question, because it's like, if you vibrate at a higher, we're all vibrating at different levels. And so, kind of like the Akashic Records or any dimension, it is like attracts like and how we match. And if you are vibrating at a high level, you may be able to go in the higher frequencies or higher dimensions where another person may not. But your animals are going to help you. Your spirit animals are going to take you exactly where you need to go and make sure that you're safe.
Okay. So this tends to be put into the aspect that it's a Native American tradition. If I'm not Native American, is it still okay for me to do this, or would that be insensitive?
Um, no, you do not have to be Native American. And I think you and I were visiting a while back, and you had mentioned too that everybody's doing it. So
Right.
yeah, it's pretty much there's shaman in different cultures and different places, which is kind of exciting. So yeah, you do
Right.
not. Mhm.
We were discussing the fact that yes, there's shaman or medicine men in every culture in every part of the world. So it's not just relegated to one particular race or religion.
Mhm. Now, I do want to say that the way that we teach is more to the Native American and more to some of the shaman practices that are closer to where we live. But some of the other practices may are totally different. And if you go to different parts of the world, they're going to have different ways of how they open into those astral realms, but each one is correct. And again, like the Akashic Records, I mean, there's just many ways to get in there and many doors and many dimensions to explore. It's endless.
So if somebody wanted to do this but they were scared, what would you say if they ask you, how do I protect myself when I go do this?
Well, Tanya, you know the answer to
I
that.
know.
So we at the university do not teach protection. You don't need protection. You can step in. What we teach is how to step in your power, hold your space. And especially if you're working with your spirit animals, they're going to take care of you. So you don't ever have to worry about where you're going or because again, like attracts like. So even if you're in a lower dimension, because I think we mentioned that earlier, and I always like to use the arm as higher and lower. But if you even go in the lower ones, you're there with your spirit guides and your animal helpers and animal totem that's there. And there's a difference. The animal totem is your essence. That's who you are. And that essence of you is with you for the rest of your life. That animal totem. The others, you can have thousands and different types of animals that come in and hundreds that come in and try to help you with whatever lessons that they want to teach or help you explore different realms that
Yeah,
they're masters of. So yeah. Did you
cool.
have something you wanted to add or
Well, no, I actually have another question here. Um, the question is, how do you differentiate when you're doing this, what the message is and what is just part of the journey?
okay, I'm not sure I understand the question. How do you differentiate? Okay, go ahead. Differentiate which.
Basically, how do you know what it is
Oh, I understand.
part
Okay.
of the journey and what symbols and messages you should take away from it?
Actually, all of it, because all of it's amazing. It's kind of like going on a trip and you get in the car and you go off to, I don't know, San Francisco, and the journey, sometimes you see things and you may see a hawk. So if you're familiar with some of the symbols that are coming in, or you write down, you can come back and we always ask our students to create a journal and keep a record of some of the symbols that they see or some of the animals that come through or how they communicate. But everything is part of a message, and how you interpret it when you come back, if you don't get it interpreted while you're there, or they're not teaching you while you're there, you can always bring back, write it down, and then start working on your own messages of how that resonates.
So this one says, I'm having a hard time learning to drum. Do I just need more practice, or do you have any suggestions on the best way to get into the theta state?
Yeah.
I also have a rattle, but I'm unsure how to use it to journey.
Right, don't. So I would suggest to use the drum and try to keep it at a low beat, kind of a slow one, and kind of just get the beat of the heart rate. And you could actually kind of listen to your own heartbeat with your hands and kind of feel that heartbeat kind of go through, and then you can kind of get the heartbeat of your own, because it is the heartbeat that you're going in. I like the fast heartbeat. I'm very active, almost in a hyper hyper way. I have a lot of energy, so for me it's like boom 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 boom, and I can go in very quickly. So you got to figure out which way. The rattle, for some people, it you got to get again that heartbeat. If you're going to do the rattle, make sure you're doing it at the rhythm of the heartbeat, and you just keep going. And once you get that rhythm and it stays progressive and it just continues and it doesn't change, that's when your brain starts to go into it.
Yeah, myself, I cheat. I use pre-recorded ones.
Right? That's another way. Yes, that is another way.
So, can you expand on what the Cave of Souls is?
Oh, the Cave of Souls. Yes, that's a beautiful place. I say beautiful. It depends how you look at it. So the Cave of Souls is a dark place where there's no light, and a lot of beings go there to hide because it's dark, or they're in fear. Your spirit guides will take you, or your animals will take you there if that's where you need to go. They will take you there to find the souls. Otherwise, you will not journey into that. You can practice, but your spirits, when you're ready, again, they'll bring you to that. But yeah, it's pretty dark, and I say it's a beautiful place because once you get the lights turned on and you're able to work with the soul that's there that's lost and start working with your spirit animal, then you can kind of start moving that energy and helping that person kind of integrate those pieces. Now, soul retrieval is something that you need to be trained in. It's something sometimes the person's not ready for it. And if the person's not ready, and also whatever trauma that person has experienced is still very, even if it's been 20 years and that trauma still, that piece still carries that trauma. So when it comes back to the body, then it can also bring the trauma back, and it's just like it happened that day. So you've got to get your client, you've got to work with them, you've got to get them prepared to bring that piece back. And also, if they're not ready to carry the piece and work through the um, the I can't gather my words, but you know what I mean,
The trauma, the lesson.
the lesson, or yes, however it is, if they can't integrate, that's the word, if they can't
Oh,
integrate the piece, which is the same thing, yes, then the piece will leave, and they'll still, so it is a big process of working and knowing how that works. What I suggest is exploring the lower world or the upper world, and that seems to be what the new people who are starting to learn, and those are the safest. The middle world, for some shaman, has been considered to be can be dangerous. I have not seen it to be dangerous, but again, I travel with my spirit team, so I feel extremely safe. I'm in my power, and if something comes in, I know how to maneuver. So as a newbie, it would be best to go in the lower or the upper realms until you practice. Mhm.
so I've heard of people doing this while taking certain kinds of plant medicine. Can this still be an exciting journey drug free?
Yes. Yes. In fact, I suggest you do it without the drugs. So sorry. That's just me. My dad, he was a stickler for that, and I kind of run the same. Yes, it is so simple. I suggest that you learn, and especially the university, we actually uh, go without any plant medicine, because once you learn and you're able to shift yourself, you don't have to rely on the plant or you can do it in a few seconds. You can go into alter state and communicate with your spirit guides or the beings that have come, or the animals, uh, just so much faster.
Right.
Yeah,
So I have a question on how long it takes to get into theta state.
different for each person. If you practice enough, you can go in pretty quick. I can kind of shift my eyes. I know how to shift my eyes and kind of third eye, and then it opens up and I'll go into theta. And but I've been doing it for a long time. Other people, they have to drum for 20 minutes or they have to drum for 10. So it's really different for each person.
Right. All right. Well, I think that is. We have one last question. It's okay. We do have a 2-day workshop at Light Language University that covers the shamanic journey and all the things that you talked about earlier. Um, and you just have to check our website to see when it'll be coming up. The right now, the next thing we have coming up, I do believe, is light code portals, but I'm not sure. I'd have to double check. But we do have a shamanic journey class coming up, I know, in January. And we can change our classes all the time in our workshops and put things in and take things out. So, all right, I think that was our last question. Thank you so much, Miss Anna, for being here tonight, and thank you everyone who tuned in. We had quite a few Facebook people who gave us
Mm.
questions. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste.